And we are back. Welcome back, guys. And we've got some cool stuff to talk about today. We're talking about when hacks attack. Earlier this week, the Pokemon Company announced that it is going to implement new measures aimed at curbing hacked Pokemon in Pokemon Home. If you've opened up the app this week, you will find a statement from the company addressing the issue, stating that it is taking steps to address the presence of these altered Pokemon. The statement reads, "It is come to our attention that some users have deposited Pokemon with altered attributes in Pokemon Home, causing the app to function in ways that it was not intended. The notice begins, in response, we are addressing the presence of these altered Pokemon in Pokemon Home. While this notice does not go into detail about what will happen to people receiving hacked Mons or any potential punishment for hackers themselves, we know that in the past they have banned people's Nintendo accounts and sent cease and desist letters, even sued people in federal court. But with all those protections, hacking is still incredibly pervasive and incredibly hard to track. Jake, you and I have talked about this before when it comes to Pokemon. The line gets real blurry. There are ways to hack Pokemon in Pokemon games and generate damn near any Pokemon you want without having to put the time and effort into training them. Shiny dens are also a thing, which are technically hacked Pokemon for the person who creates the den, but not for the people that are raiding them. So it's, it creates one of those interesting kind of gray areas. The point is that sometimes the line of what is and isn't a hack gets blurry, as does the line of whether or not it is or isn't beneficial to the gaming community. Yes, there are tons of hacks out there that exist just simply to save time, but other times they can make games almost unplayable for players and suck the fun right out. So we wanted to have an in-depth conversation about hacks, cheats, and mods and the impacts they have on the gaming community as a whole. So let's get after it. My first question to all you guys, first off, is hacking cheating? Very simply. Jake, we'll start with you.
So it really just, I think it depends, like that. And that's kind of a cop-out answer. But I feel like me and you talked about the Pokemon hacking, right? Like playing with hack bonds, things like that. Like 9 times out of 10 for that, it's literally just a time saver. I could have easily caught that Pokemon. I could have done that. And then also in competitive, it doesn't really give me an edge anyway, right? It's one of those where we're all playing, with the same kind of Pokemon with the same EVs and everything. And so, anyway, but then if it is,
even if it's one that I've hacked to get its maxed out stats, it still has the same maxed out stats as any other Pokemon that was trained.
Exactly. And so there's nothing about it that really gives me kind of the leg up, right?
Right.
Now, back in my day on Halo 2, though, and whenever people would have actual modded Xboxes that made it to where they automatically got headshots, that was not as fun. You saw people climbing up the ladder in rank in Halo 2 and Halo 3, and it was all because they had just hacked their Xboxes. Yeah. And so there is a line where it becomes cheating, but not all hacking is cheating, in my opinion.
That actually, we'll talk a little bit about this when we go into the Top Zen, but that happened earlier this week where we had a Twitch streamer, Mr. Golds, who was bragging about how good he was at a game, and then all of a sudden his stream caught that he had in the background software that was allowing him to cheat, and ended up getting banned from Twitch. So
as he should.
As he should. So what about you, Bronwyn? Is hacking cheating?
So I think that it's funny because I was just looking at the chat and I share a lot of these opinions that were just brought up in there. The aspect of it being a competitive game versus a solo play, I feel like there's a little bit of a difference. Like if you're hacking into a game that you're competing other people on and it kind of takes you on a different level than them, I think that's cheating. That's not great. But yeah, I think it's a little bit more lenient when you're just playing a game solo by yourself. And then, it's still cheating. Yeah, it is cheating. So hacking is cheating, but I think that sometimes hacking's okay and sometimes it's not so okay. But yeah, it's always cheating, guys.
It's universally cheating.
Yeah. And I think it just becomes, and I like that, is it competitive or is it solo? Because it's almost like a victimless crime, right? It's one of those things where if it's just affecting me and how I play the game, what's the big deal, right?
Right. Now, if you want to mod yourself to be like Siren Head in GTA, so you can go stomp around the city and go do badass things. That's one thing. But when you take that shit online and try to stomp around other players, that's when it becomes something where it's starting to suck the fun out from everybody else.
Exactly. It feels unconstitutional.
You're cheating yourself, not other people.
Right. Well, with that, in your own words, how have hacks changed over time? Do you guys remember the good old Game Shark? Does that ring any bells for any of y'all?
Yeah,
I have one.
Yeah, Brahma, what do you think? How has hacks changed over time? We'll start with you this time.
So I heard of Game Shark and I knew that was a thing, but I never used it. I don't think I really knew how, or I think my brother might have had one. Was it that little device you can put into your Game Boy?
I think he put the console game on top of the Game Shark. I think for the N64 at least, and you'd literally it would plug through it, kind of thing. It was something like that. I'm gonna look up an image.
That's exactly how it went. I have one for my Game Boy Color at home. I bought it off eBay because I wanted to use it for Pokemon Yellow. You put the cartridge into the Game Shark, and then you put the Game Shark into the Game Boy. And then it's the same for the N64. And I believe on PlayStation 2, you did it through the save cartridge, where you put the save cards. I don't know if you guys remember, we used to have to put memory cards of video games.
That was a thing.
I would lose them, and it was bad.
Yeah,
exactly.
Back before the days of the cloud.
We're screwed. Yeah. And so it went through the memory card on that one. I had a modded Xbox where you had to download Linux, and you had to use this old PC disc that you put in, and you had to do this special stuff to where you could hack your Xbox and then you could do special things in games and stuff. And oh my God. You used to have to do a lot to cheat.
Yeah. So I guess it has changed over time. I mean, the only ones, the sort of cheats I'm familiar with are just you put this code in or that. Yeah. So a lot easier to cheat now. Just a couple clicks of a button, and you don't need all these fancy doodads.
Yeah, I mean, and also it goes on the intricacies of the cheat, if you're going, so I've been, on my stream, I've been playing some modded versions of fan-made Pokemon games. And the reason I've been playing them is specifically to kind of gear up for this conversation, because they're ROM hacks. They're literally just hacked versions of this game that create a completely different experience for fans out there. And I got to enjoy a few of them, and they were very fun. And so there is something that can be said for modded games and for the hack community, that they can kind of create new avenues, create new stories, and may be able to help create content that may even make the community even better. I think Pokemon Insurgents was one of the first ones I played, and that had one of the coolest storylines, I think, in any Pokemon game that I've played so far. And I hope definitely Pokemon Company is listening to that.
Yeah, they should be. There's been a lot of times when a hacked or a mod version of a game comes out and it's actually better than what the studio released.
Right.
I believe even Knights of the Old Republic has a mod that makes the story flow better, and it also took out a bunch of bugs that the studio kind of just never repaired. The community repaired through mods. And so and I think that's one of the most incredible things about them.
Yeah, I mean, look, if they can get 50 Shades of Grey from Twilight fan fiction, then they can definitely pull Pokemon Insurgents from Pokemon fan fiction, games. Well, with that said, mods and hacks, do you think they're one and the same? I mean, I think some of the ROM hacks that I was talking about are probably more mods than they are hacks of anything else, because it's creating a completely different game. Or is there really a difference? Are mods and hacks the same thing? Jake, we'll start with you this time.
I think sometimes you have to hack a game before you can mod it. So you need to get into the game's code. You have to figure out how the game is built. And so sometimes you can't have one without the other. Right. Mm-hmm. And so to me, and I could be completely butchering this, but hacking is actually getting in there, getting to the code. Right. Modding is actually taking that code and then rebuilding it into something else or making it different. Right.
Yeah.
And so I'm more of a modder than a hacker. I've never known how to hack anything, but I've downloaded a shitload of mods in my day. And so I've definitely played
Same.
Skyrim. Yeah, I've played some
Same.
Skyrim mods. I've played some Sims mods. I've played some
Uh-huh.
Fallout mods, like Grand Theft Auto mods. Like, we've definitely like ran through the gamut. But like, yeah, that's the big difference to me is that hacking's like an actual like going in, trying to figure out like what's the code, what makes it work, how does it work, right? And then trying to like maybe change it or exploit it for your own good in that aspect. Whereas a mod is, I think most mods are kind of like, I mean, yeah, there may be some bad mods out there, but in my opinion, most mods are usually pretty careless mods. Like it's like, make yourself a giant in Skyrim, or like unlock this specific armor in Fallout 76 or something, or not 76. It's not modded yet, but Fallout like 3 or 4. And so that's kind of the big thing to me, or the difference anyway.
Yeah. What about you, Brahman?
Yeah, so I think that, even just looking at it on face value, doesn't hacking just sound so much worse than modding?
It does.
Just like, oh yeah, it sounds a little bit nicer. Like, I'm just modifying it a bit. And even just looking at the chat, I think like the consensus in there is that modding is better or more acceptable than hacking. I kind of agree with that too. I've modded my fair share of games, and I don't have the skills to quite hack into things, but
it downloads the mods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Do you guys have any particularly favorite hacks or mods that you like a lot?
So in Skyrim, I feel like the first couple of times I've played that game, I just played it without modifying it at all. But then recently, last year when I played it for probably my 4th or 5th time, I decided to go for it with the mods. I went a little bit crazy with the mods and made it so I would like level up faster, so I would find gold everywhere. Basically, I became way too powerful for the game. I like owned every piece of real estate. I could see a dragon like flying in the sky. I would zap it one time with a lightning bolt and it would just like fall on the ground dead.
Boom.
So eventually it made the game less enjoyable once I got to that point. It just like wasn't fun anymore. But I think it was a great journey, like getting there. And I like the fact that I've played it both with mods and without mods. So I think that can be an important aspect too. Like have fun doing this with the games.
Right.
Play it the way that the game designer intended, but also play it how you want to. It's your game experience. And as long as you're not using it to take advantage of like other players on a competitive level, I don't think there's anything wrong with it.
I agree. I think that's a good point. That's a real good point to make. Jake, do you have any particular favorite hacks or mods?
Oh man, where do I start? So like Bronwyn, I've definitely had many a Skyrim mods where I made myself OP. My biggest thing is essentially being in God mode. Like you said, just one bow and arrow takes down a whole dragon, and it's game over. And so that's always a big favorite. But then also Fallout. I've always loved, there's always been almost every Fallout game since Fallout New Vegas has allowed you to get the armor from Fallout New Vegas because everyone loved the trooper armor in that one, or the ranger armor. And so I've always used the mod to get the ranger armor. I do that every Fallout game that I can. And so that's a big one. And then the Sims, man, there's so many crazy Sims mods. You can have like you can do gangs. You can have like your Sims actually like sell drugs and stuff.
Oh, wow.
You can have your Sims like build clubs, like nightclubs and strip clubs, and do like real like gangster shit with your friends. And so
I haven't tried that. I gotta check that out.
You can actually you can mod your sim game to where your sim can like try and experiment with different drugs like cocaine and like other stuff like that. So I'm not condoning these mods. I'm just saying it's out there, and if one were inclined to see.
You're bored during the quarantine, you can't go out party.
And so if you want to see a simulated version of yourself, get really yowdered out of their mind, you can definitely do that within the Sims. And so those are, just a few of them. But like I've definitely downloaded a lot of different mods, mostly for Skyrim and Fallout, though. That's been my big ones. Oh, and I always loved the Infinite Gold in Civ 6. Civ 6 mods, they're kind of a slippery slope, bro. Because you start thinking like, oh, I'm just going to use it to get a little bit of extra gold so I can take over. And then before you know, you're OP and you rule the entire world. And so you got to be careful on your Civ mods. But Stardew Valley mods are a lot of fun too. There's one that allows you to get a tractor, and that just totally changes how you play the game. So the tractor mod in Stardew Valley, definitely a must-have. Check it out.
It's a complete game changer. I think that there's I like Easter eggs better than mods, and sometimes they can have that same kind of feel. A lot of times, there's a couple of good ones in Breath of the Wild. There's a couple of great ones in God of War as well. But I think my favorite hacks are just going to be the ones that I use for Pokemon. Getting some fresh EV'd shiny mons from wherever they're hacking them away, and if I just breed them once, then there's no way you can tell. So I think that that's probably a hack that I use the most. But I think one of my favorites that I've ever witnessed after just watching clips of it online is the hack that you can use, or maybe it's a mod, where you can change the skin of Resident Evil characters to Family Guy characters. That one's great.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, it just makes them like terrifying, and they're actually scarier as Family Guy characters.
I've seen Iron Man and Grand Theft Auto, and I thought that one was pretty incredible too. I never used it, so I didn't put it under my favorite ones. But I've seen a lot of videos of Iron Man and Grand Theft Auto, and oh my god, that looks bananas.
Yeah,
because he's not saving people.
Yeah, he's not saving people. Are there any games that you feel are particularly prone to hacking more than others?
I just mentioned it, Grand Theft Auto. I think GTA's always been a big one that people's hacked. They've always wanted to mod, hack GTA. Pokemon, like you were saying, I think Pokemon has had big hacking community for a very long time.
I mean,
and so I would definitely
hacks and leaks about all kinds of old content that have come out. There's been tons of stuff there.
I would say my big ones are definitely Fallout, Skyrim, Pokemon, and those guys.
Yeah. Bronwyn?
I think a lot of the games that have like the big online communities are prone to hacking because I think you want to like kind of show off your like, oh, I did this. Like I want to show you like that I'm like changing this game in this way for me. And I feel like it's like kind of like then it spreads from there. So it's like one person will do something and be like, oh, cool. Like now I can do that. And I just think with those big communities, it kind of has a mind of its own.
Yeah, for sure.
If you look in Steam, it's definitely like usually the games that have a workshop with a ton of mods, they have pretty active communities and very large Steam communities. And so it's one of those things where usually the larger the community, especially within the PC world, the larger the amount of, or the more prone it is to hacking and mods.
And it doesn't take even much time too. I mean, we've seen even hacking in Fall Guys recently. There's been a lot of problems with it. I hope. Have you gotten a chance to play with any hacked games or any stuff like that? If so, like you need to make us like a little clip of somebody, a hacked Fall Guy player, skipping through.
I haven't seen it yet, but I've seen videos of it online, and I actually watched one where the guy he lost and he hacked and he still lost, and it was just hilarious. Like,
speaking of which, just a quick side note: I've got Fall Guys now. I downloaded the free game of the month, and I get the hype now. It's fantastic. I absolutely love it.
Yeah.
And I think that I'm going to be streaming it probably sometime next week as well. I think my partner and I are going to do a drink to Fall Guys because I think it feels so appropriate to do a drinking game for. Yeah. But anyway, sorry, didn't mean to get too far off a tangent. My last question for you guys, and this may be a little bit leading, but do you think that there should be any punishment for hackers? I'll start with you, Bronwyn.
So I think it really just depends on the hack, but I think a lot of the ones where they're not hurting anybody or like doing anything too outlandish, I don't think that there should be like a huge punishment, but I do kind of enjoy when there's like a little bit of a cheeky punishment that we'll kind of course, like get into in our top 10 where the game developers sort of have a sense of humor about it and are able to combat these hacks in kind of a equally creative way.
Yeah, I agree. I think the ones that are kind of victimless crimes, if you will, i.e., modding yourself so that you're the Hulk in GTA and you can go stomping around the city. In one player mode, fine. In multiplayer mode, then possibly maybe getting your account banned or something else like that.
Yeah.
Jake, do you think that what do you think this should be the punishment for hackers?
Oh, the ban hammer. The ban hammer every time, especially if it's competitive. Like if it's one player, like you were saying, I think we all can agree on that. If it's just funsies, if it's just, for shits and gigs, like, all day, hack that shit. Let's mod it. Let's continue to like blow it up.
Right.
Let's do some crazy stuff. But like if it's competitive and like, it's not that it's that serious, but then at the same time, it's kind of the principle of it, right? Like it's kind of like we've both kind of like we have this unsigned agreement that we're both going to play this game fairly, and you're going to try to beat me one-on-one or team on team, whatever it may be, right?
Right.
And for them to go in and then hack that or cheat and then take that win away from somebody who's been working really hard, maybe, because gaming, especially nowadays, pro gaming, getting to the level that it is, and just the esports, where they are, like cheating is becoming more and more of a thing that can really make or break a community. And so that's why I think you've seen Fall Guys, like I think, he said, sorry for the random tangent, but I almost said that's a great transition into your next question, because Fall Guys had to lay the ban hammer down because they're trying to really make a cry for them to be the next, the next big kind of, not like esport, but the big streaming sport, if you will. Right. And so if that community is rampant with hackers and cheaters, it takes away from any wins that people have. And so you can't hold people up as the greatest at that game because there's so many winners that, cheated their way to the top. And so the punishment has to be to ban the accounts that are, exploiting the game. That way you can make a fun and equal environment for everybody.